Hey, you've got barbecue and bottles here. Today we're going to be searing ribeye pork chops in cast iron. So look at these pork chops, they're absolutely beautiful. We had our butcher custom cut a little over an inch thick chops for us. They Frenched the bones. These are going to be wonderful. So before we sear these, what we're going to do is prepare a brine and soak these ribeye chops overnight in the fridge in that brine. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna force the chops to absorb a bunch of additional moisture. And at the point when we're grilling or searing these, the moisture will escape, but the end product will have more juice and moisture embedded within it. And it'll just really up the taste and quality factor of the end product. So for our brine, the ingredients, we'll need 8 tablespoons of kosher salt. If you're using table salt, get the non-iodized version. We'll then use 8 tablespoons of brown sugar, some peppercorns, garlic. We've got ours chopped up into large chunks like that. And then for aromatics, we're gonna be using some rosemary. For aromatics, you can use whatever you'd like. Just don't go with anything that's acidic as you play around with your brine recipe. So now let's head over to the stove and prep the brine. All right, now that we're at the stove, we've got a large pot. We've already put 8 cups of water in here. And now we'll turn on the burner. And we're gonna dump in the ingredients. Again, 8 tablespoons of salt, 8 tablespoons of brown sugar. We're gonna actually stir this up here, get that all dissolved. Perfect. Now we'll add in our garlic, our pepper cloves, and a bit of rosemary. So we're gonna let this bring to a boil here, making sure that you stir it so that your liquid is fully dissolved. And then we're gonna let it cool down back to room temperature. All right, now that we got our brine boiling away here, we're gonna turn off the burner. And to help get this down to room temperature quickly, we're just gonna put in some ice. Now we're gonna let that sit there. It's really important to bring this back down to room temperature. You don't wanna put obviously your brine over the pork chops while it's boiling hot, and you'll start to actually cook the meat. All we want to do is impart moisture and flavor with our brine, so it's really important to bring this back down to room temperature. All right, now we've got the brine cooled down to room temperature. What we're going to want to do is wash the ribeye pork chops. Just rinse them in cool water, pat them down with paper towel, get them nice and clean. Find yourself a dish that you can lay all the pork chops down in. You're gonna wanna put the pork chops in the dish before you pour in the brine. Remember, those pork chops will displace a lot of liquid, so you don't wanna pour your brine in first, put the pork chops in, and then have an overflow situation. So get them all set up like this, and now pour in the brine. Oh, this smells fantastic. You can really get a lot of the rosemary, the garlic, all of those flavors. And we've made a little more than we need for this particular tray. But make sure you get a lot of the aromatics into this so that all that flavor absorbs into the ribeye pork chops overnight. Perfect, so spread this around. Now you're just gonna cover this up and put it in the fridge. You'll want these to brine for somewhere between 12 to 24 hours, depending on the thickness of your chops. And we'll be back tomorrow to finish these off in cast iron. So we've had these ribeye pork chops sitting in the brine for just under 24 hours now, so they're ready to go. What we're going to be doing with the pork chops is doing a reverse sear, where we're gonna put them in the oven at 225 until we get the internal temperature of the meat up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we're gonna finish it with a sear in cast iron. So for the reverse sear, what we're gonna need, we've just got one of these roasting trays and a baking sheet. So we'll set that down in there, just like this. We're gonna sit the ribeyes along here and put that into the oven. But what we're gonna wanna do is just take these ribeyes out, give them a quick rinse, pat them down with paper towel, and then set them on the tray, just like that. So we'll do that with the rest, and then we're ready to stick them in the oven. Now these are ready to go. So we've got our oven preheated to 225 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're gonna stick these in. Perfect. So now we'll need an instant read thermometer, and we'll check back in periodically on these. We want the internal temp to be 120. All right, we're gonna check the temperature on our pork chops here. And again, we're looking for 120 on our internal temp. So that's about a little bit more than what we're looking for, but this should be good. So we're gonna pull out this tray. Now we're gonna start searing these. So we've been heating up our cast iron pan, and the way that you can tell it's ready is just take a few water droplets and drop it on the pan like that. If they instantly evaporate, then your pan's heated up and ready to go. So we're gonna turn the heat down a little bit, pour in some olive oil, we're also gonna put some butter in there. We're also going to put in a clove of garlic. So this butter is really going to help to bring some brownness to the exterior of the pork chops. All right, move that all around here. Perfect. Now let's grab one of these chops. Just lay it right in the pan and let it sear away. We're also going to add in garlic cloves. Bit of rosemary, just for the aromas. Impart that onto the meat. And the reason that we're adding so much butter is we're going to do a bit of basting here. Basting, again, just helps to bring some extra brownness and crust to the pork chop. All right, we're getting a nice golden brown on our sear. This is exactly what we're looking for. Now do the other side. And now with this one, we're making sure that the fat gets nice and rendered down. So that's why we're cooking it on the edge here for a minute. Now we're gonna check the internal temp. 135, 136, perfect. We're on it somewhere between 135 and 140 as our final internal temp. We'll check this one. Oops. Pushed a little too far there. There, 138, perfect. So both of these are ready. We're gonna take them off the cast iron, put them back on the roasting rack, and we'll let those sit for 10 minutes before we cut into them. Now that we've had the pork chops resting for 10 minutes, let's cut the meat off the bone here. Pull the string off that the butcher wrapped around here. And now let's cut in and see if we got that perfect white with a bit of pink. And the brine should make this extremely juicy and tender. Oh, just look at that, perfect. Just look at these pieces. That great white color, but still nice and juicy. Not like that dry pork that your mother used to make. If you like this video, give us a like below. Make sure to subscribe for our channel. We release new videos every week on Saturday morning.